Welcome to our podcast, Doing It Right. This podcast reveals authentic stories from successful leaders doing it right. It's about their journey to become a leader, their choices, motivations, and lessons. In essence, how they built successful personal brands. Your host is Valerie Sokolowski, author of 8 leadership books and nationally known as an authority on executive presence and personal branding. Let's get started. Here's Valerie.
Well, hello and welcome to Labor Day, the 125th Labor Day of this country. I'm so excited to have a guest today on Labor Day that was celebrated so many years ago, came into being to really honor the workers of America and what workers bring to this country. Cornel West was with me on Memorial Day, and I asked him to come back on Labor Day, and so he did. And thank you so much for being back.
My pleasure to be back with you, Valerie. Yeah.
And last time you gave us some interesting, what would I say, accents from different parts of the world where you have been. Do you want to just keep the normal accent today?
I speak with my southern accent.
Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah.
And Texans for sure.
Well, a little bit of Texas in there too, y'all.
Thank you, y'all. We're going to talk about how impactful Cornel West is currently and is going to be for the state of Texas. But let me just set this up by telling those of you who may not know all of the things about you, Cornel West, what I'd like for them to know. So here we go. 22-year career in the United States Army, Lieutenant Colonel Allen West. Served in several combat zones, received many honors. Let me give you a few of them. The Bronze Star, 3 Meritorious Service Medals, 3 Army Commendation Medals, 1 with Valor and a Valorious Unit Award.
Valorious Unit, yeah.
What is that exactly?
Well, some people say that's when you do really stupid things and you survive to talk about it.
Okay.
But, to us, we just did our job.
You just did your job.
Yeah.
That's a lot of awards, sir.
No,
I'm looking at what's on your lapel.
Well, I always tell people I could not fly airplanes, but I could jump out of them. So I was a paratrooper, and so I have the Army Master Parachutist wings and also Navy Marine Corps Parachutist insignia.
I can't even imagine jumping out of an airplane.
That's okay. What you don't want to imagine is the parachute not opening up.
For sure.
Jumping out is fine. It's the parachute thing that you want to be concerned about.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, let's keep going.
Yeah.
He also was, in 2010, elected to Congress representing Florida's 22nd District. You're a Fox News contributor, as I am, and author of 2 books and 1 coming out soon.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell us about that.
Well, the first one is Guardian of the Republic, an American Ronin's journey to faith, family, and freedom. It's kind of like a autobiographical, philosophical biography of what developed me between my upbringing, my parents, the military, and then the second one is Hold Texas, Hold the Nation. I think it's very important that Texas continues to be the beacon of liberty, freedom, small business entrepreneurship, and that indomitable, rugged individualism.
And you are an indomitable, rugged individual and one of the most disciplined people I have ever met. So you have made a decision recently, Colonel West, that I think is a pretty bold decision. Would you tell us what it is and how did you come to make this decision?
Sure. Back in August, I made the decision, and as a matter of fact, it was August 15th, right before National Airborne Day, because I thought that was symbolic that I would run to be the chairman of the Republican Party of Texas. I think that when you look at the principles and values that have made Texas so successful, and the reason why so many people want to come here and businesses and corporations are moving here, we have to maintain those principles and values. A lot of people don't realize that Texas has the 10th or 11th largest economy in the world. And when you think about that GDP strength, what makes it so? And you look at so many people that are moving away from some failing states, just up the road from where your studio is right here. Toyota North America moved from California to Plano, Texas. And so we have to ask that question, answer that question and ask that question, why did you come here? And I think that's important that people realize it. So I want to make sure that those principles and values of faith, family, individual responsibility, quality education, small business entrepreneurship, our free market system, and also our national security. Texas has the largest military installation in the world, and that's Fort Hood, Texas, which was my last duty assignment. The F-35 system was developed over there in Fort Worth. You look at the port facilities that we have here and so many of the air bases. And if you want to throw in a little history, the most decorated soldier from World War II was a Texan, Audie Murphy, and I think a lot of us remember him.
Yes.
So all of those things are important to maintain and sustain for future generations. That's why I want to be the chairman of the Republican Party here, which a lot of people don't know. The Republican Party of Texas was founded on Independence Day, July the 4th of 1867, by 150 blacks that were recently freed from slavery.
I don't think too many people know that. I certainly didn't.
Well, that's why you got me to share those tidbits of history.
So, Colonel West, as a friend, you said to me some time ago that you didn't think you'd ever get back into politics, kind of.
Yeah.
And here you are. So I'm curious, how did the family, what did your wife and the girls, what did they have to say about this when you were considering it?
There were three options that people were consistently presented to me: run for U.S. Senate, run for the congressional district in which we live, and then also some people were talking about the chairmanship. And so we sat down as a family and we talked about where can you have the biggest impact. And when you look at Texas and how important it is, you know, there's only one flag that can fly at the same height as the American flag in our country, and that's the flag of Texas, because Texas was a republic first before it became a state. So you look at where you can have that impact, and my wife and my daughters, my wife is a Army brat. Her dad served 24 years in the military, 2 tours in Vietnam. He's buried in Arlington National Cemetery. They understand what it means to serve this country and the sacrifice and the commitment. And they, my 2 daughters who are living, one is living here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, the other one up in the D.C. area. They want to make sure that they have the same opportunities that I had and my wife had, to have legally immigrated here from Jamaica, and she got a dual bachelor's, an MBA, and a PhD. So we want to see that same success and opportunity for our daughters, and they understand that, Dad, you need to get back into the fight. And so that's why they gave me their seal of approval for this race, because they felt it was the place to make the biggest impact.
Well, clearly you will. And you used the word fight. What really will you be doing? Like if I were following you every day in that position, what would I see you doing?
Well, the important thing as the chairman of the Republican Party of Texas is to go out there and recruit, train, equip, resource, good quality constitutional conservative candidates, and get them into elected positions. And I think one of the places we failed here in Texas is that we have not looked at those local elections, the city council elections, the school board. I tell people the most important election, the most important elected office in the country is school board, because you're shaping the future generations. And when I think about what used to be the American education system, it has devolved into the American indoctrination system. And we've got to get it back to where we are educating our young people and preparing them to be critical thinkers and not just mindless lemmings. When I look at what is happening in our country, and back in August we were watching the events unfold in Hong Kong, where you had young people taken to the streets because they wanted liberty, they wanted freedom. They did not want to be under the oppression and the tyranny of the communist Chinese government. But yet we have young people here in the United States of America that are protesting to have socialism and communism, and therefore the tyranny that comes right along with it. So something is just not right, and I think it comes back to our education system.
It's just out of balance, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And for whatever reason, we stopped being adults, and we tried to be friends with our kids, and we allowed and we have given over our responsibilities of raising our children to other people. And when it says very clearly in Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6, train up a child in the way that they should go, so that when they grow old, they shall not depart from it. That's our responsibility as parents.
Absolutely, it is. In your newsletter. You call it the Old School Patriot.
Yeah.
Why did you name it that? What does that mean?
Well, when I think about, being a patriot, I'm talking about an old school patriot. I'm talking about someone that stands on principles and values that made this great nation what it is, made this great nation a beacon that so many people from around the world want to come and be a part of, even people that want to come here illegally. When I lived down in South Florida, I used to tell folks I'd never seen anyone get on a boat and row over to Cuba. Okay.
No.
Yeah. So I think that, being an old school patriot means going back to those old school ways. And that's kind of how, we used to describe our parents down south. He's old school, and that's what I want to be. And I think that's what we should be.
And don't you think that everyone, I don't care what your bend is politically, doesn't everyone really want just to go back to some strong values?
I would think so, but in the absence of people talking about those strong values, then people are going to go whichever way they hear the loudest message that is out there, even if it's coming from a minority of voices in this country.
Mm-hmm. You were quoted also in one of the newsletters that I read. You talked about how we should be looking at America not as a geography, but as an ideal.
Yeah, America is not just a piece of ground.
No.
when I hear people say that anyone can come in, they don't have to abide by our rule of law, that's not the case. This country was established with a revolutionary premise and principle that the individual was sovereign. And the individual was sovereign because their rights came from their creator. It didn't come from man. And you think about all of the governments that existed at the time when the Declaration of Independence was written and signed. They were monarchies. And they believed that the rule was, encompassed in one person. Yep. And that one person was the one that was endowed with all the rights to tell you your buy and your leave and what you could do and what you couldn't do. And America said, no. This is a different type of place. And in 244 years, think about what that ideal has produced, because we believe in that indomitable entrepreneurial spirit and individualism as opposed to a collectivism, which you have seen in so many other places that have failed.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting to me that sometimes when, again, trying to stay neutral in whether someone is of one bend or another, I say, what happens when you are talking with someone and you don't really know them that well and you're just chatting and you realize that they have the opposite point of view than you do? Do you try to go ahead and have that conversation, or do you do what I try to do? Honestly, I'm being honest now. I just try to shut the conversation down because in my belief, I don't think it's going to make any difference and it's going to get fire going.
Well, one of the things it talks about in the Bible, it says that you're either hot or you're cold. If you're lukewarm, I will spew you from my mouth. And I think that you have to be committed to a core set of principles and values and beliefs. And then you have to be convicted, because you're going to be tested. Someone's going to come up to you and challenge you. And I think that the American people are looking for individuals that will stand up and say, you know what, you have every right to believe as you believe. But let me tell you why I don't think that that's the way forward for this nation, or why I believe that's the way forward. And you have that discussion. Now, some people will start to, spew at the mouth and scream and yell and all these type of things. But what you have to understand, Valerie, is if people don't want to have that intellectual conversation and debate and discourse with you, you have won the debate. And you should not shy away from it. And, even, Jesus Christ once said that sometimes you have to, shake the dust off your sandals and keep on going.
Exactly.
And so if you think that you're going to live your life expecting everyone to like you, you're going to have a very disappointing life. But what you should do is live your life so that people respect you, because you say what you say and you mean what you say. My mother always said that a man must stand for something or else he'll fall for anything.
That's very wise. And
she was a wise woman.
She was a wise woman.
Especially when she had a belt.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
I think that is wise advice and well taken. Well, because we know so much about you on your stand and your boldness, and now what you're going to be doing for the next coming up soon, I'd like to ask you some fun questions
All right, fun
about
time.
the man. And you have to know, listeners, that I asked Alan, I said, okay, so can I just get silly with you a little bit and have some fun like we did last time? Because last time, go back, I won't even tell you, go back to Memorial Day and watch the podcast. We really got silly. It had to do with glasses. So I'll put on the real ones, not the sunglasses one that happened last time. Here's what I'd like to know.
Okay.
Okay. So you're a very disciplined man, and I'd like you to describe what your discipline sort of routine is every day as a person.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. I normally get up at 5:30, maybe 5:45, and I will go out and do my morning little prayer, and then I will head out for my morning run, anywhere from 3.5 up to 6 miles, depending on the day. I have a 6-day running training cycle. After I come back from running, I'll do a few sets of push-ups and crunches. And I will always, I say the Lord's Prayer, I say the doxology, praise God from whom all blessings flow, praise him, all creatures here below, praise him.
And you sing it, right?
Yeah, I sing it to myself after I finish, the workout. And then I pray the prayer of Jabez. And then I go...
Wait a minute, what's the prayer of Jabez?
Oh, that you would bless me indeed and enlarge my territory, that your hand would be upon me to protect me from evil, that I shall not cause pain. Mm-hmm. And then I add in... and that you will bless me with strength and courage and wisdom and discernment to defend faith and freedom for your people. And God grant it as I've requested. Amen. So I kind of put a little spin on that from Joshua and Solomon. Then I'll go back and swim anywhere from about 200 to 250 yards in the pool. Then after that, I'll go in, shower, shave. I'll come out, and then I have my Bible devotional that I will read. That's my quiet time with the Lord, to include my quiet time when we're running. I love to run with the Lord. You get a lot of good insights. And then normally my breakfast is, vanilla almond Special K with lactose intolerant fat-free milk. So I try to stay healthy. And then it's off to whatever I have for the day.
Now, what time is it by then?
Oh, I normally try to knock everything out and be done by 8:30, my morning routine, and then I'm ready for the day.
I'm exhausted. Have you ever done any triathlons or something?
I did triathlons when I was a young stud.
Yeah,
back in and that was pretty. It was mostly the sprint type triathlons where you would do, about 400 to 800 meter swim. Then you would do about, 25 miles on the bike, and then a 10K run. So, yeah.
That's amazing.
That was back when I was young. I could do that. If I even thought about it now, I'd probably die of exhaustion.
All right. Is there anything that you're not disciplined about?
Yes, and that is popcorn.
Okay.
I love my movie theater butter popcorn. And we are now in college football season, and I will just...
It's going to be right there.
I'm going to be right there.
Right there.
Every Saturday, if I'm not out and about, it's ESPN college football from sun up to sundown.
And it's real butter.
It's real butter.
Okay.
Butter, not butter.
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 Okay, it's butter. I got that. Of all your achievements, what are you most proud of?
I'm proud of my daughters.
Aw.
Because, life is not about what you achieve for yourself. It's about what you enable others to achieve. Mm-hmm. So, seeing them from the little teeny tiny things that they were to young, responsible women, that's the true measure of success.
And they are beautiful.
Yes, they are.
Beautiful
they
young
take
women.
After mom.
Well, I guess
I had nothing to do with it.
I guess so.
I'm still looking for the milkman.
Okay, you were laughing, and that was something I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
What makes you laugh?
Oh, if you get around anybody that's been in the military, soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Coast Guard, we have this really crazy sense of humor. We can take some, the most horrific situations. You're out starving, you're freezing, whatever, and we can make jokes about it. So that's I really do miss soldier humor. It's nothing like it. How we can poke fun at each other, and of course, when you get around old veterans, I mean, we can still bring it up. But that's what makes me laugh more than anything else. And hopefully one day, Tennessee will beat Alabama in college football. It's been like 15
Cross your
years.
Fingers.
Yes, every third Saturday in October. So I would love to laugh at all the Alabama fans, but for the last 15 years, they've just been on me.
Well, sorry about that.
I know. Life sucks.
Life sucks, I know. Once in a while.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know that I do a lot of personal branding work. Mm-hmm. What would you say is the one word that describes your brand?
Focused. I say that's it. I think that you have to be focused on, like I said, your core principles and values, and that has to be your calling card.
I like that.
So,
focus.
Yeah.
You know, Colonel West, that we always ask your teachable points of view. You've already given us 3. Mm-hmm. If there was something right now to tell the listeners that you'd like for them to hold near and dear to their hearts as we do go into this election, what would you say to someone, anybody, no matter whether they're Republican or Democrat?
Do your due diligence and study. I think that's the most important thing. Just don't sit back and be spoon-fed. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's the beauty of us being humans, is that God gave each and every one of us our own thinking apparatus. And coming back to what I said originally about, not having a system of education, but a system of indoctrination, we're not developing the next generation of critical thinkers. Teaching kids how to take a test is not teaching future leaders. And I think that also comes from adults that, really just want to hear what they want to be told. See, leadership, Valerie, is all about really telling people what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. But if the people get to the point where and it says in the Bible, they want to have their ears tickled, they're going to follow that, even to their own detriment. Yeah. And that's what I really see happening in the United States of America. Why would anyone stand up and profess philosophies and principles of governance that have never been successful anywhere? Why would people leave from a failed state because of whatever type of policies and come to another state and want to still have the policies of the failed state? Mm-hmm. So I just want people to critically think and ask themselves the real hard questions and try to answer them instead of just being spoon-fed.
Being spoon-fed reminds me of just how much, in a good way, how much knowledge and wisdom and insight can come from, I don't have my cell phone here, but the little thing here that we hold in our ears and so forth. And that's a good thing, isn't it? Yeah,
look, once upon a time you had the Encyclopedia Britannica guy that was coming through the neighborhood, and that was it, Yeah. And I remember my dad, challenging me, said, I want you to go through every one of those books, from A all the way down to Z, and try to get as much knowledge as you can. Mm-hmm. But think about now, kids got all this right in the palm of their hands, but they have to have the wisdom and discernment, which is what the young Solomon asked, to be gifted from God, wisdom and discernment. He didn't want all the riches and all these things. That's what we need to, inculcate in ourselves. And that's what I think helps me to be very focused, is that I will sit down and I will, do my due diligence and read. That's part of my routine. I close out the end of the day going back and reviewing things and reading things and trying to pick up something that is absolutely, that little tidbit, like knowing that July the 4th, 1867, the Republican Party of Texas was founded by 150 blacks. That's a powerful statement.
It is.
It really is. Mm-hmm. And so when you can bring out those type of nuggets, then you can open up an incredible conversation. And so,
when you think about the wisdom and the knowledge that we have at our fingertips and your one word focus, in the coaching part of what I do, oftentimes people will say, I am a great multitasker. What would you say about being a great multitasker?
One of the things I tell people, I said, what are your priorities? And they'll list like 10 to 15 things. I said, if everything's a priority, then nothing is a priority. You're not focused. And you remember I shared with this back the last time, one of my leadership principles when I was a commander was to be the expert in your lane and knowledgeable in one other. In other words, be focused.
That's good.
And I think that's what we need to do. One of the things about having that little device is that we are so overloaded with information that it overpowers us. And so you need to be able to sift through the noise and keep that focus and understand what are the critical pieces of information I need to be able to make a good and proper decision instead of being paralyzed by so much information that you are not able to make a good decision. Because you sit back and say, well, I need more information because I can get more information. Well, as you're doing that, that window of opportunity just closed.
That's true. Yesterday, I had someone on the show, Alan, that said something I thought was very powerful, and I'm going to remember it forever because it has to do with how much rest we get, which has to do with focus, which has to do with multitasking. And here's what he said. He said, it's important for a leader to get enough rest.
Yes.
And the man was a fabulous architect. And he said, when I go to bed at night and I get a really good night's sleep, I wake up with incredible design ideas refreshed that I couldn't have thought of if I had just kept working.
Yeah. You know, anyone in the military will tell you that you need a good, strong leader. Anyone needs to have at least 4 hours of uninterrupted sleep so that you can be a good, cognizant individual able to go out and function properly. Now, can you go a couple of days maybe without sleep? Yes. But when you start to get on the other side of that, your functions and your ability to make critical decisions or take action is deteriorating. And so I think it's so important that we take that time out to get those quiet moments. And that's why I think also it's very important for us to have those quiet moments with the Lord and just meditate. It doesn't have to be 4 hours, but you need to have those moments, you know, could be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, could be several different little pieces throughout the day. But it is great to refresh your mind and your spirit and for your well-being.
And that's the whole person.
That's the whole person
That's
concept.
the whole person, yep. What advice has been the most meaningful to you?
That's not a funny question. Is that a funny?
No.
Okay.
I'll get back to a funny one.
The advice that's been most meaningful to me, and I shared with you before we went, well, one of the many I shared before we came on air was when my dad said, never read your own press and never drink your own tub water.
Your own tub water.
Yeah, never.
That's Southern.
Yeah, don't get full of yourself. That's what he meant.
Yeah.
And so I think that, again, you know, if you're going to be focused, you have to be grounded. And you can't sit around and be concerned so much about what other people are saying about you, positive or negative, because then that can pull you away from that core sense of principles and beliefs and focus that you have. You don't want people to you know, just the cheerleaders, and then you don't want to be just totally focused on the detractors. If you feel within yourself that, as you say, doing it right, that you're doing what's right, then you don't need to worry about the praise or the you know, demeaning, denigrating, disparaging comments. You just keep going on true north. And so that's one of the key things that my dad taught me, because there are plenty of articles that get written about me or whatever, or, you know, I'm sure there'll be comments from this podcast. And I just don't, every now and then maybe I'll peruse a few just to get a flavor of how people are responding to something that I've written or something that I wrote, see if I'm getting through to them. But otherwise, no, I just stay focused.
Well, and it goes back to really owning the values that you have deep inside. And I tell people the way you'll know if it's a really deep depth of a value is when someone steps on it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. No, and it is all about how you respond and react to it, being it, like I say, the positive or the negative reinforcement.
So all this bullying with kids, it's crazy to me. My children, I don't remember that they got bullied like I'm seeing kids today getting bullied. And you're saying, you know, stay focused and you can't be liked by everyone.
Yeah.
How important it is, I'm making a statement now, for parents to instill that sense of exactly what you said.
Yeah.
Just let those things go,
Yeah.
and don't react. But have you dealt with any friends who have kids that have been bullied and hear these stories like I do?
I mean, you've heard about it, and of course, my daughters, growing up in South Florida, little girls can get a little petty.
Yes, they can.
And that's where you just have to reinforce your children. You're beautiful.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're talking about, but you're beautiful. Yeah. You're beautiful in my eyes. You're beautiful in Mom's eyes. You're beautiful in God's eyes. Maybe that person needs an eye check. Okay. and you just have to constantly tell them that every single day, so that they're not looking for acceptance from anyone else, that they can be positive, they can be strong, they can be confident in who they are. And, that's something, just because, my girls are 26 and 22, I still, every day, tell them how proud I am of them and all that they're doing, and tell them that, you're on top of your game. So I think that this whole social media thing has created a lot of folks that think they can get away with saying things because they can be a little bit faceless.
Yes, totally.
Yeah, and I think that again, that is a weakness in the culture that we have here in our country, that, in a way, we're kind of allowing people to be cowardly. If you have a problem with someone, stand up and own up to it. Don't try to hide. Come out and say. And that, I've had people that, have said some disparaging things about me, and I say, hey, look, it's very simple. If you want to come to my face and call me an Uncle Tom, an Oreo, a sellout, a house N-word, or a white man's porch monkey, feel free. Come say it in my face.
Bring it on.
Bring it on. And then you shut it down.
Mm-hmm.
So as I've taught my daughters, you and the military teaches you move to the sound of the guns.
Move to the sound of the guns.
There's a time in your life when you can't always run away from confrontation.
Mm-hmm.
And there was that great song by Kenny Rogers. Everyone considered him the coward of the county.
Yes.
You got it. Yeah. And so I think there comes a time when you have to make a stand.
And the earlier they learn,
the absolutely.
The better. Yeah. Still learning.
Yeah.
In terms of
and also that is something when you look at foreign relations. There are a lot of leaders of countries that are just bullies, and sometimes you got to smack them down, and then they go away. Think about how Ronald Reagan responded when he found out that Libya was behind the bombing of a disco in Germany.
Yes.
He bombed the heck out of Libya. You never heard another word from Muammar Gaddafi.
I can't even imagine what our government leaders have to think about in making those decisions.
Sure. Well, you got to think about people like me that are going to be the ones carrying out those decisions.
Yeah.
And that's why you have to make the best possible decision.
Mm-hmm.
But those of us that wear the uniform, we understand we got to go into harm's way. We understand we have to move to the sound of the guns.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as we know that leaders have our back, and the fact that we know that we're protecting and safeguarding our loved ones, and owning up to the oath that we took to our Constitution, we're good.
And Alan, thank goodness our veterans are so well respected now.
Yeah, it used to not be that way.
No.
Yeah, I remember when my older brother came back from Vietnam. It was not good. Not good.
It was terrible, yeah. Well, we've got a lot of good things going on in our country.
Of course we do.
What are you seeing as a really positive thing that's happening, let's just say, in education today?
Well, I will tell you that in education, the resurgence of STEM programs.
Yes.
That's a very good thing. But I will tell you the most positive thing that I see. You and I go to the same church there at Watermark. The young people. That faith and spirituality is making a way back into the hearts and minds of our young people, because we have told them to go looking at everything else to try to fill that God-shaped hole in their heart, but they're coming back to the only person that can fix their heart. And that's why I want to see a reversal of all these suicides that we have here in the United States of America. No one should ever give up hope. So I do see a spiritual awakening happening here in the United States of America, no matter what the secular humanists believe.
That's right. Well, and well said. With all of the suicides and the stats that are coming out, that they're more and more. That's the only thing that hope. When you lose hope, you've lost everything.
You've lost everything.
You've lost everything.
You lost your focus.
There you go. That one word. Boy, are you branded with focus. I got that. Yeah. Here's something else I'd like to ask about what you're seeing. What about education is one? What about business? How we're doing business today?
Well, we have a much better business climate. You know, this will be the one political thing that I would say. You know, how absolutely disrespectful it was to have the President of the United States of America once say that if you own a business, you didn't build that. That's what makes America unique. That's what has made America great in 244 years, is that Valerie can go out and have an idea, and she can, embark upon that idea. You may fail, but you know something? You get the dust off of you, and you go out there and you continue to try. And that's what we reward in America, is the person that goes. Teddy Roosevelt, the man in the arena, saying that it is that person that goes into the arena that gets the dust and the blood and the mire upon them, but at least they had the will and the desire to try, instead of those cold, hapless souls that sit around and they make a mockery of him. So I think that when you look at small business entrepreneurship, which is the backbone of our economy, 75 to 80% of this country is small business entrepreneurship. We're on the right track for that. And I don't want to see us go back the other way. And, from those small businesses that hire other Americans, then other Americans may have an idea and you spawn another business while that business may grow. So that's why you think about once upon a time, and I know you got, y'all see her nails? Everybody see those nails? They're really pretty nails, right? Really pretty nails. Well, guess what? Once upon a time, we didn't have nail salons.
That's true. I'm glad I didn't live then.
But all because some women came here from Vietnam.
Yes.
With nothing.
So true.
But an idea.
Uh-huh.
And a drive and determination in their heart. Now look at this incredible industry that they've created in the United States of America. That's what makes our country great.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I would never.
Pretty nails.
I would never have thought,
ugly nails. I bite my nails.
I have a place you can go.
No.
Oh, no. But you're right. You're absolutely right. So you just be aware, I guess, and I'm going to drive down the street now after I leave here. Listeners, drive down the street tomorrow.
Count them.
And count the amount of shops that are owned often by people of another country.
Yes.
And they came here and they made it.
They came here through the front door.
Yep.
And they had a burning desire. Look at all the different little small restaurants that we have here. Not too far away from here, the Ethiopian community over on the North Lake Highlands, and all the restaurants and the shops and stores that they have. That's America.
And that's thank you for that. That is such a final statement that makes this podcast end on such a final statement.
They were doing it right.
That we're doing it right. There's so much more that's good and right, and that's the attitude we've got to take. One final question. What is the first thing that you want to do in this new position?
I want people to understand how important the state of Texas is for the existence of the United States of America. And I want them to remember that it was here in Texas that, I went to the University of Tennessee, and we call ourselves the Volunteers, because a few men came here to fight for liberty and freedom. And when you think about those men that stood at the Alamo, those 185 for 13 days, and even when surrounded, they would not surrender, they did not retreat, they fought because it was either victory or death, as Colonel Travis said. Travis was focused. Travis was 26 years of age when he led those 185 men. So read that letter that Colonel Travis wrote to Sam Houston. And if that doesn't make you want to stand up and fight for this incredible state called Texas, then you're dead in your heart.
How do you really feel? Colonel, it's such a joy. Will you come back again?
If you want me.
It really is, to have someone as bold and frank and to the point and focused as you are about all the right things. It makes a difference, and I thank you for doing that.
Thank you, Valerie.
And I thank you for listening, and I want you to come back next time. And if you haven't subscribed, would you please do that, because we always have fabulous guests like Colonel West.
You better subscribe, because I have skills and I'll find you if you don't subscribe
there
to
you
Doing
go.
It Right.
From the Colonel. Until next time, bye for now.
Thanks for listening. To receive Valerie's voice, free monthly leadership tips, and to learn more about her leadership programs and coaching, visit her website, valerieandcompany.com. Next week, we'll be here again to inspire, engage, and equip you with teachable points of view from successful leaders who have been doing it right. Until then, lead authentically.